Hi Trevor, Colin. Good. I'm glad. I don't know what was wrong. There was something quite serious wrong with the stream. At one point, I had a stream from last week appear, and I don't know what was going on. So there was obviously something quite drastic, but enough to make me stop and start again. And hopefully, we can get this, albeit a little late. I'm glad you can hear me, Trevor. Glennis, good evening. Steve, better luck this time. Yeah, absolutely, mate. I really hope so. That was pretty worrying. And I've got a bit of dirt on the top of my page. There we go. Hopefully that will go. Right. Yeah, so thanks for coming back. I hope everybody else can find me. I left the message. I kept saying it, but I didn't know if anyone could hear it. So I decided to tape the message instead, or type it out anyway. But yeah, there's 9 watching, so we're coming back to where we are. Derek, good evening. Sorry about that little mess up. Tech is a lovely thing, isn't it? When it goes well, it's great. When it goes wrong, it's a nightmare. So we will crack on and just give it a few more minutes just to let everybody come back on and rejoin. Nightmares. Anyway, right. Oh. So I got to do a bit of drawing now. As you can see, we've got that lovely little gondola in the bottom, moored up on the way that they do. And we've got the San Giorgio Maggiore in the background with a lovely mist, sea frat, whatever you want to call that in the distance, that's just being knocked out by the rising sun. I've done lots of paintings of this scene, many oils. I love it because it's a reoccurring theme and I can crack on with that, and it just, yeah, it's just there and I love it. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, now I'm going to put in a very, very quick background line just to give me an idea of sea level. And I want it to be somewhere about 2/3 up, something like that, I feel. Above center, I'm just going to draw a very faint line through. Not even 100% sure if that was straight. I hope it was. We shall see. Some of the others haven't found us yet, but I do hope that they will join us very, very soon. Although there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 talking, none of you watching. So whoever's keeping silent in the background, come and say hello. Let's hear and say something to me. All right. Nice things, of course. Right. Okay. I am just going to now sketch in the San Giorgio, the tower. I'm just going to put in a very simple line. Try and get it up and down correctly. I keep making mistakes. Sometimes I get them a little bit at an angle. I'm not sure why I do that. I think that we all have little stigmas, and I think that maybe I have one that just takes something off to one side or another now and again. I'm not sure. I'm just making up excuses probably. Let's take the tower down. And we've got lots of structures down below here. I'm not going to be putting too much information in. We've got the side of the building, another tower to one there, and we've got the dome, which say is about there. Not as large maybe as I'm doing it. We can change anything we like on this to get the scale slightly different. The church itself comes forward, and we've got this here coming down on the shape, coming out. Lovely shape. I actually see it further round a lot of the time, where this is in a very slightly different position, but it's nice to have it in this angle. And there's lots of roofs that are very, very hard to make out, so I'm just going to fudge some of that in favor of just allowing whatever to be. Take that through there. And we've got the end building here that comes down like so. Where are we? Oh, we've only got 8 now. I'm frightening people away. All right, I'm going to take that out a little further to about there, I think. Something like that. And I don't know whether that needs to be higher. I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to take that up to there. just little suggestive marks, nothing too much, just suggestions of what's happening at this point. And then we've got a side of the entrance there, big beautiful entrance columns coming down, the big doorway in the center there, and then we have another building off to the side that creates all part of this little island, or however you get to this, something like that. And then we've got off the side of the page, but we'll leave it at that. Okay, let me come this way, and we've got several tall trees, one and one little space between that and another one coming down, and we have a further building through here. I'm not quite sure what that one is, but we'll put it in anyway. And as I say, we're looking at a much different angle to normal. I actually can't remember exactly where this is in terms of position. I'm going to put the lighthouse that you can see just there and let that just sort itself out. And then all we've got here is the sea, or the avenues. Here we've got different lanes that these vessels come up and down in, and that's pretty much all we're going to do for the drawing of the sort of the buildings and the San Giorgio in the background. We don't need to do anything more than that. It's just a suggestion of what's going on. This here now is where we've got to work or I've got to work my magic as such. I want to put in a nice, now if you look and plan where my horizons are, and you can see that the back of the vessel, the fin is just touching the top of the water there. And then you've got the front of the vessel, which is just about there, touching almost the top of the shoreline there. So we've got to get all of that boat in that space. So let's go for it. Okay, I'm going to simply draw a simple shape now and bring that boat around to about there, and I'm going to come straight down with what I think the fin should be about like so. I need to give myself a bit of space and bring that down and just check the line, and then let that come up, and it sweeps very wide, and I don't think I've got that yet. So let's just sweep that wide and keep that line like so. We can come back and correct anything. Very thin point there, and then we've got the tarpauling over the seats where the paying guests will be, and let's just check that out. Now I'm not worried too much about all that pencil work's going on, because predominantly we've got a lot of light stuff happening here, so it's not a big deal. So we've got that there, and I just want to make that a little bigger and more substantial, and I need that to come up there a little taller like so. It's going in dark, it's going in blue, so it doesn't really make a bit of odds where that is. Now we've got the point here. So now the gondolier will be standing when he's working on this part of the vessel here, and I still haven't got that right, so I've got to come back in and just play around with this just a bit of time just to get this sorted out, because I'm not quite happy with the way the line of the boat or the vessel is. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm treading a little more carefully now, as that will come out and down like so, and then that will come out and around there, and then we've got what will be the seats, and then a little area to the edge of the vessel. And as I say, this is where he will stand and work, so that will come down there, and I think we're pretty much on it. And if anything, it's a little bit too short, it should be longer. So maybe I should go with that instinct, and let's just bring that down a little closer down here, give myself a bit more room, and then take that up. See if I feel that improves things a little more. and maybe to about there. Okay, well, we'll see how that goes, and I'm going to bring this all the way up to a point here and let that run very smartly down into that curve to there, and then that will somehow come down to the edge, because obviously this is like a cockpit in through there. This is all covered in cloth at the moment. There are various things sticking up which project up with the cloth itself. There are a couple of mooring ropes, but let's just not worry about that at the moment. Let's just look at the vessel's shape this way in the water, how it's sitting, and the top is sticking way out of the water until it comes back to here somewhere. Very little actually seems to sit in the water at any one time. Okay. Good evening, Keith. Good evening, Susan. How are you? I hope you're both well. Sorry about the mess up. Tracy, good evening to you too. Judy, nice to have you back. Ben, sorry that good evening. It takes a bit longer to get here from here. Hey Ben, don't worry. You actually missed all the fun where the first stream failed. So this is stream mark 2. It's just one of those days when things just were not going to play nice. But there we are. Anyway, right, I'm still looking at this. I'm not 100% happy, but the problem I'm becoming is my paper is getting marked, it's getting dirty, and if this were anything else other than a dark shape in the water, I really would be having some potential issues moving forward. So I'm still looking at my shape. I'm still looking to see if I need to change things and get this right. I do like the whole thing to be as close to correct as possible. So I think that is coming in. I'm going to take that down to there. I hope that that is looking a lot better than it was. And I think this comes out a little bit more. This comes down and along straighter to there. And then we've got to look at the mooring. Now the mooring starts about there and is got just short of that area. So I'm just going to put in the post to where I think it should be. Another post that comes down to about just around, say, there. And I'm not quite sure how they're put together. I can't see from here. I'm just going to put a top to them, like so. It's pretty much going to be dark anyway. We've got another post here. And we've got one in front of the fin. So let me just put that shape in now to this nice area here. Bring that up so. And if anything, I feel that this is now wrong. You must forgive me. We're doing this sort of as we go, and if I make mistakes, then they are going to be copied in, and I just want it to be right before we go any further. Maybe there should be a little bit more length in the vessel, but I don't have that luxury on here, so I am just going with what I've got here in terms of the look. I'm going to take that down. It's quite straight there, right the way back into there. And we've got the shape of the fin, just breaking out up the top there. Nice shape to the front of that. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as that plate comes down, and molds into the front of the keel up through there. So I'm going to leave that like that. Hopefully that will do the job. And I don't want to make all this dirty under here, so I've got to be a bit careful with that. But I do need to have this here coming down and away from the vessel, like so, and into the water. And we've got a lovely sort of reflection we're going to be putting in through there. We've got this other post that I was speaking of, which is going to go in about here, like so. And now I've got to look at the angle of this, because I think that should be higher, because I've got to make sure that these in a straight line, one, and something like that, two, into there. Actually it comes out a little higher than that, but I'm sure I can be forgiven for that little mistake. Into there like so. Something of that nature. I don't think we're too far out. There are always things that can change. We've got a lovely shape of reflection under here. I'm just going to do that because that's, I know what I'm going to do there. I've also got a shadow or reflection of this post here, although I can't see too much more there. Now on top of that I have got some larger posts, so I've got to put this one in here. Just going to put a line for now, and I'm going to put a tall one. It is not quite as tall as that, so somewhere about there for this one. It's going to come down a little bit straighter would be good. We can do that. We can straighten that up as it comes down through here and disappears actually beyond the boat. So we have another one which is on this side of the vessel. And at the moment my boat looks as though it is floating in the most awkward way, but hopefully by the time we finish that won't be the case. This is slightly taller and comes down maybe a little further over than that. So let's bring it to here, bring it all the way down through there to here somewhere. We've got a nice mooring post here. We have then got one that is just shy of the tower, and that is where this boat is actually tied to on the front end, or on the back end I suppose it is. So this pole is more natural in shape, comes down here into the water, and then we've got some mooring into it like so. We have then got this little part of column in the back building. There is a smaller post out in the channel which we'll put there. We have another large one equal to this one here, and it is just this side of the dome. So we're going to put that in about there. Let that come down, down into our water. And then we have another one which is literally this side of the dome, like so, coming down, and it is about there. And there's one small one that's going down in line with that one there out to the channel. And then we got some what I call booms. These are areas that I think where it keeps the vessels away from, it breaks the water, so the gondolas do not suffer any sort of quakes from larger vessels going through at speed. So we're going to leave those in there. They come through at this point, they come down here. And so a lot of these boats will come up and they will work within this area, which is all the way down the Grand Canal. Hopefully that will make sense. There you go. Alright, so we are 16 watching. That is good. I'm glad most of you have found your way back. And just where Wendy's got to. I haven't seen Wendy tonight. I know she's probably been working at the house a little bit, but hopefully she'll join us very, very soon. Now, some of you may have seen this, and let me explain what this is all about. Many of you for a long time have known me use my Craig Young box, which is a handmade box I enjoy, but it is a plein air box for me, and I wanted to return it to that use. and I keep getting it out and moving it and what have you, and I don't like doing that to it. So I decided to get an older one out and use that. And you probably saw it. I'm just standing up to get it down. You probably saw it in the last video. And as you can see, it's pretty banged up, pretty messy, pretty dilapidated. I've had this for so many years, I can't believe how many. But nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with this at all. Except that it's been so long since I used some of these colours that I can't remember half of what they are. And that isn't a reason to get rid of them. They still have a use at some point. But what I did do is I couldn't wait for that to happen. I love my thing. I love order if I can find it. I'm actually one of the most disordered people around. And those who know me well will know that as a fact. But I do like to try and have some order about me. And to that end, I went out and bought a new one of these off of eBay. It's not very expensive actually. You can, the same thing with the name Holbein on it is about 55, 60 quid. Whereas this one is about 20 something. And it does exactly the same. And if it lasts me for the rest of my time, I'm not worried. But it meant that I could put all these colours out. Now I've got all these colours. There are actually 33 colours out of a potential 35, but I'm not going to be using 33 colours. I shall probably never use a fraction of them, but because I have them in home, it'd be nice to have them out. I've got the options, and that's what it's all about. So with that all said and done, let's crack on with this watercolour. Let's mix some of these up. Let's clean some of this palette off. And you will also see me using the new brushes that I've been piping up about over the last video that I did, all from Rosemary and Company. Now these brushes, I got to tell you guys, they are amazing. She sent me some. Rosemary sent me a couple. Well, she sent me 3 last week, and as you know, I did a Friday video on those where I was quite open and said what I felt about them, but I was really impressed. And to that end, I then went straight out and bought a good number more for others and for myself, and that's what I'm now using. Nothing wrong with my other brushes. I just wanted to give these a firm try out and see how they fared, and they're doing extremely well. Okay, Tracy, you done nothing wrong. It's me, my dear. Always down to me. Right, let's get rid of that. Don't want that. Okay, so let us see. We're going to have some, I think we're going to have some cerulean blue. Not cerulean blue, some phthalocyanine blue. And we're going to put a little bit of cobalt turquoise or a little bit of lovely turquoise colour to that. I'm going to see what that looks like, but I'm going to mix some other colours too. To that end, I am going to mix a little bit of yellow, and for that it's going to be cadmium yellow. Just a little bit on its own. It's going to turn a little bit on the green side because I've got a bit of corruption in the brush. Not a big deal. I can always remix down here if I want a bit more. Just some pure. Not a problem. And what else do I need in there? I need a little bit of orangey red, so I'm going to come in here for a little bit of vermilion and a bit of orange into that, which is translucent orange. And we're going to come back out and start putting some paint on. Okay, make a bit more of a mix, a bit more of the blue, a bit more water, and let's just put some of this on. That doesn't help having a big hair on the paper. Let's take that on, put a bit more cobalt into that mix, I think, just to take it back a little bit. Got some dirt on the brush or on the paper, probably from all my messing around just now. I'm going to keep the bead working, so now I'm going to come down, I'm going to put some of that yellow into the wash. Bring that all the way on down, and then I'm going to come into some of the reds. Now everything until I get to my waterline. Oh dear, I don't like that. Come on, get out of it. Everything right the way down to my waterline is darker than the sky. So any colour I can go straight the way through with this lot. It really is not going to make any odds at all. I'm going to bring that down. I've got so many hairs. Okay, but not in the wrong places. Right, I'm going to let that wash down and get that lovely subtle transition between the sky and here. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to use some ultramarine violet, which is a lovely colour. And I've noticed actually that there are two different versions. The Daniel Smith one is more violet than the Schminker one. And I have got both of them on my palette for that reason. So very interesting. I didn't know until I sort of unwrapped them. And I'm making a sky with just getting off this darn hair. Right, let's go back in and be a little bit more serious about our... Oh dear. Right, if anything else goes wrong tonight, I'm going to just throw my dummy out the pram and get really upset. And take that down through there, take that all the way through here. And this is the waterline, as it were. Trying to leave that little bit of fin out. Get the waterline through there. And leave a little bit of a light area just to allow me to put that prick of yellow light in, which is the light from the lighthouse itself. So I'm going to come around here, be a little bit more careful, take that all the way through there. Going to leave a little bit of this as well, because that is quite well, in this case actually I can get rid of that. I can take that all the way down because the colour of the building is quite cool at that point. It's not until we get to the end of these trees when I really need to be a bit more aware, a bit more savvy of the buildings below, because they're quite cool. So I'm going to put that through there, take that all the way and put some more ending about there on the building, and allow some of that cloud to start going up into the sky at this point, because this is a fog bank that is sort of slowly giving way to the morning sun, like so. Get rid of that. Just about had enough, I think, of paint to do the job with. Maybe just a little squeeze more, just a little tap more. Okay, just want to know that this is sort of just that cloud bank slowly dissipating. I'm going to take it above that post because it is in the photo, and I didn't want it to be level with the post, because I put the post in, it looks a little bit awkward. So I'm just taking them just above where they are. Let that come down. And clean the brush out because we've got a beautiful sense of orange and yellow. So I'm using a red and a yellow. A bit more water. And I'm going to bring that through here. A little stronger. Something like that. Trying to ease that in, and I've got a bit more yellow I want to put into that. I'm going to come in with a little bit of aureolin just in there, just to freshen that up. Come back with a bit of that blue. And sweep that down. There we go. Okay, that could have been a problem, but it nearly was. It isn't anyway. So I'm going to put a little bit of violet just to finish this section off over here. Just a bit of cloud that's just losing out to the red, and we'll leave that like that. So we've got this beautiful cloud. What I do have is a problem occurring over here, which I didn't check. So I'm going to have to wash this down Take that yellow into there and put that wash in. Should have had this examined before, and it's almost certainly going to give me a bit of a ridge line, so I'm going to have to put a wash in, which wasn't bargained for. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to come all the way through while the rest of this is quite wet. Just put that in and take that all the way through, just give it a rewash into there. That's fine. And now I'm going to put in a little bit of the warmth into there too. Now I've got to say and admit that this is a bit more of a mistake than I had planned it to be. I'm going to come down a big brush to a slightly smaller big brush and put some more violet together just to play around with some of these and this lovely cloud. I'm going to use some dry brush just to try and blend some of these areas together, because they have gone a little bit haywire on me. And it's at this point you get some of these awful bleed backs of colour. And it's where some of the paint is really dry, other parts of the paint are not as dry. So I'm really working quite fast here to minimize that impact of the two areas. Still trying to remember to keep my little bit of lighthouse there. Okay, I think with a bit of luck we may have got away with it. Going to be a few marks here that I can't do too much about, except to say that they may well be slightly heavier bits of mist. Just trying to drop in and minimize the impact. Mistakes can happen. This is one, but it is the way it is. Okay, I'm going to leave that be, and whatever happens to that happens. So now I'm going to come in with the lovely warm colours of the water. Lots of aureolin into my oranges. And let that just come forward. Wendy, hi, good evening to you. Yeah, no, it's very true, and it can happen very, very easily, Keith. I'm just going to come here with a start of a wash. I'm going to put in a lot of yellow, but I'm going to put in quite a bit of an opaque colour this time, which is Naples yellow. And I'm just going to come down here through all of these parts here, taking this all the way along. Okay, I think it could be a lot less impact than that, so let's take some of that out. Let's bring some of that down now into some of these fin areas, down through here into the water, and we can introduce and drop in other colours of the sun that are created at that point. And take some of that all the way through here now, like that, and they will turn to more blues. So I'm going to take that through there and going to just gently ease the two areas together, taking that all the way through the back there. A little bit more blue over there, maybe a little bit more violet into that. Something like that. And then I want to play around with the lights and the darks, so I'm going to use a lot more opaque Naples yellow through here, just coming down through this area, so that we've got some sort of relationship between these areas here and here. Okay, I'm going to take it all the way through. I'm going to introduce a little bit more pink and a little bit of magenta style colours into some of this area over here on the water. Make them a bit pinker. Through here. Bring some of that into this area. Take it all the way through to the bottom of the Missouri. Down here. More water. Like so. And let's get some more colour going, more reds, more magenta. And I'm looking at the colours very quickly. I'm going to come in with more warmth at this point. Doesn't really look as though it needs it, but it does need warmth. And I'm going to use the blue violets in here too. So I'm just going to come in and play around with these values for the moment. Let those lovely colours work with each other, I hope, he says. Taking that all the way down through there. Let's try some of this up here. Got a bit of a mark there, but we're going to lose some of those marks anyway. I'm not overly worried about those because they will dissipate with some of the ripples and other marks that we've yet to put in. So I'm just going to come around here and join up the dots underneath the vessel. Nice, lots of light coming through here. And you can see there's that drying aspect there, which is, again, is a bit of an issue. But working fast like this, unfortunately, sometimes they do happen. And it's just the way of it. And take that all the way through to the bottom here with this blue violet now. This ultramarine violet colour. Just take out anything while it's still wet. More of those darned hairs. Okay, I'm just going to let this settle down for a while and dry up. I'm going to let it dry a little naturally if I can. I may have to help it out, but I think we'll try and let it go as natural as we can. So we've got a nice suffusion of colour working around here. This, I might just get away with it, but at the end of the day, worst case scenario, we just can take a little bit of the picture off and just trim it down if we get something really ugly manifesting there. Alright, just going to have a glug. Keith, I'm beginning to agree with that one, mate. I really am. Alright, so I'm actually gonna have to dry this, so hold back your ears while I turn the hairdryer on and hopefully we can get it going. Righto. That is probably dry enough to continue. It's not totally dry, but it's probably enough without the spread of material that I don't really want. So while we've got that, this is really and truly like a first pass. This is like the underpainting. And to that end, I will now start messing around with some of the building, and let's just knock that into shape. I'm going to put in a very strong reddy orange to start with, maybe a little bit of cadmium yellow into that red. And I just don't want, I want it strong, but I don't want it overpowering. I just want to put in a little sense of warmth in this area around where that lighthouse is glowing. It's not a lot, you can't see too much, but there is just enough. And that will hopefully do its job later on. We're going to come back in and we're going to put in a little light into it, but not right this straight away. Now I'm going to come in. I'm using a much smaller round brush now, as you can see. I'm going to use a lot more violet, but I'm putting in some of that lovely turquoise blue, and that will take it away from the pure violet, give me a greeny violet, dirty violet. But to that end, I can then put in a little bit of some of this warmer value in there. That will give me another one. I can turn it to a dirty grey up in here by bringing in a little bit of yellow. So I have options, and I can actually make a little bit of orange and come down here, and I can bring in a little bit of a warmer value to that grey. Let's just see where we need to go with this. So I'm going to come along the bottom here and just put in the shoreline. Could be construed a little heavy, so we can lighten some of that off. We can come up in here and we can come right the way through this post, because we know we're going to be putting in more information on the post, but I want to put in these trees that we can't see all of them, but we can see some of them, and they're going to go in there and down into here, down the side. And let's take that, try and keep your water line about where it should be. Okay, and we're just going to come along. We've got a there's some sort of structure there. I don't know if it could be another tree, I don't know. And then there is a tower of some sort, part of this building or one of these buildings. There is a angle to the roof which we need to put in. There's a sense of warmth and violet to that. That's why these whole raft of different colours here on the palette, the warms and the violets and the purples with the magenta in there, and the blues with the green, and then the oranges into that, and some yellows into the top end of that, just give a whole raft of different values into this area. Just going to take this all the way along now and taking it through the top of the boat all the way along the foreshore. Going to come a little bit darker and give that a bit of weight and take that line all the way to the other edge. Now I've got a piece of cloth down. I just don't want to put a lot of my grease. I'm not so much worried about, well, I don't want to drop any paint on it either, but at the same time I just don't want my hand grease on all this water that we're going to play around with further on down the road. Okay, so I'm going to come back in now with a little bit of dirty, using some of the Naples yellow, but because it's corrupted with the blues and excuse me, other colours, then we're just going to come in here. I'm going to put this dirty value all the way through parts of the building here, all the way up here, and it could be even a little bluer because it is in the early morning. It's quite distinctly different to other parts of the buildings, but it is still quite cool. And I'm going to come in with a bit of red just to take this other building off to one side like so. Now I don't know how this building ends. I don't know how much of it there is. I'm just going to leave it to there and hope that I'm not too far out with what I'm doing, just to give it a suggestion of something else going on there. A little bit of dark, and I think it actually goes up a little bit, so I'm going to just bring that down to there. Right, okay, carrying on. So we have got quite reddish roofs and greenish roofs. There's a lot of verdigris on some of these roofs and the way that they're finished off, and they're quite dull. So let's just mix some of that in. Let's put the dome together in that fashion. It's got quite a bit of green appears in that, and along the top of the church roof there. So I'm going to put that in like that, and then there gives way to darker elements underneath. But then we've got sort of reds and all sorts of other colours going on. There is another tower, chimney or something there, and this will come down and give way to the rest of the building. I'm going to come in with some of those warm values in here. I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. As I said earlier, I'm sort of making this up a little bit as I go, and it may be that, you know, there should be some other things there that I can't quite make out from the photo, but hopefully we will be fine. I'm going to put in a little bit of some of the lovely ornate sculptures that appear on these areas, and sort of just coming down with some of the shapes and the doorway just to suggest them, nothing more than that. Bit of dark down through the area there, and once that's dry we can put a few of the suggestive windows in. A little bit of red coming in, a bit too much there. Let's bring some of that and dirty it up, and let's come in with our tower. Okay, and there's a lot of building and a lot of stuff around here. Going to take that all the way up. I'm going to put the top to it in a little while. Okay. Right. You're talking about my palette, girls. It's a lovely new palette, and it is quite clean. Gotta say, give it a week, and we'll be back to normal. Right, I'm just going to go on top here, and I'm just going to put on the tower, which is quite green, but then I want to grub it up a little bit so it looks the green hue, but it is going to change overall as that comes down in the morning light, and pretty much the same as on here. I'm going to put a little bit of this on top and the lovely little tower that goes on there. There are various little bits and pieces around here as well, which I can't see from this angle. I'm guessing that some of it's obscured by the posts as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of that green in to suggest some of these trees to have a little bit more of a greenish value to them. So they come down and they suggest that there is other things going on in there, like so. Okay, that'll do. And this is going away with less information in it. And the building top here is a bit yellowish, a little bit dullish in here, and we've got little bits and pieces coming around here, down, a little bit of light showing through because it's an open type belfry, and we've got the top comes out, something like that. A couple little ornate pieces up the top there. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, but I think we're pretty much, we understand what we've got and what we're looking at, and I'm quite happy with that. So we've got to start looking at the boat, and we've got a lot of water to do, but I first and foremost want to put in a little bit of yellow, a little bit of yellow in there, and set that up for later. Okay. We've got one or two small flecks of information way back up in here. I'm going to put in there, and I'm going to use the rigger for this. And if I can find it, there we are. As I said earlier, Wendy, because I know you weren't here, but all the stuff that I'm using tonight are the new red dot series of brushes. There's a lot of yachts and vessels up in here, bit of a marina going on at the end here, and I guess that's why we've got a lighthouse, or part of the reason. I'm going to put those boats in there, and I think there are quite a few bits and pieces through the front here as well, but I can't quite see too much. I put a suggestion I wanted. They could be more imposed over the other side, I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm going to put a few pieces in, just break up some of this information here, and a little bit more over the back there, just one or two behind. Okay, just slightly darker on the roof through there. Can't see any windows as such, but I'm just going to sort of suggest one or two things going on. There are some obviously bits of it. I don't know if this is dry enough yet, it may get away with it. I'm just going to suggest one or two of those. down through here. Now actually there are windows with lights on that I can see in the church itself, but I'm not going to try and recreate those for this. It is merely what it is. Okay. Alright, that'll do. That'll be fine. Now I'm going to look at some of this. Now I wanted to change this, but because I had problems over here, I missed some of that. It isn't a problem. It would have been nice had I taken some of the colour out, but I don't think the colour overall is not too bad. So I'm going to live with that and going to take it on from there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down with the rigger and I'm going to suggest some of the few distant, that's a little heavy, so I want a lot more water, a bit more green into the colour. I just want to suggest some of the sort of wavelets, if that's the better word, that are sort of out there in the estuary or the sea or whatever the channels are at this point. I'm just tapping down and leaving a few extra marks into the water, and then as they come a little bit closer, of course they're going to get somewhat bigger and show up more, maybe a little pinker, one or two of them. Don't worry that I'm coming through the post, the boat or anything else, but I'm not going to be using you can't see too many. I'm not going to be using too much of the rigger further down. There's just no need. The brush is just not man enough for the degree of waves, as it were, that you're going to be seeing. So I'm going to come back out of it and use a bigger brush for the rest of that. This is just for the stuff that I consider is a bit further away, a little bit more distant. I'm going to put in a suggested bit of shadow, a little bit more blue. And that's just going to come down here as a little bit of different light underneath the area of the shore on the other side. So I'm going to take that down through there a little bit. Just gently caressing the water with the brush. You can hear my hand, my little finger just rubbing along the painting or the paper surface, and that's not a problem. I just got to be a little bit careful of doing too much of that, because you can create sort of setups where your hand has got oils in it and you could end up causing yourself a bit of a problem laying down other colour easily on some of it. To the most part, you won't get that problem. Just be aware that it could happen. Take some of that through here. Just build up one or two, take that off the edge, and then I'm going to put the brush down for a moment. Come back in with some greeny blues. I'm going to be using, again, I'm liking the combination between the ultramarine violet and this lovely turquoise colour that we've got going on here. A bit more water with that, and then just take off the excess and just come back in and start thinking of some of these beautiful ripples. Now I think that that is possibly even still too much pigment in there. I'm going to lose some of that, take some of that out. Just come back in with some more down through here. Just try and look at the way the eddies in the water are moving through here, like so, and bringing those down. And we're going to have an awful lot more to contend with when it comes to all these lovely ripples. And I'm just going to suggest a bit of this reflection which is moving around and through these poles. Taking a bit of water through here. Maybe break up a few, not too many out there. Trying to create some movement in the water too. So you've got these poles and I'm just putting down little bits of movement with some of these blues, but they're going to be darks too. So it's not just down to them, but I just want to suggest that there is movement in the water. A change in the direction as some of these waters catch an eddy around the pulse and where the boats are rocking around in the water. Now here I've got to be careful too. I don't want to lose all of that light just by replacing it with a blue colour, because I've got a lot of darts to go in. So I've got to be a little canny with that. And again, under here I can do the same thing with what I'm doing on the other side. Just a few blues and other colours coming down. If that's looking too green, increase the ultramarine violet at this point and then come back in again, and you're going to take that a little bit. It's still going to struggle against the yellow, but it will not be as bad. I'm going to put in some definite lights here. We've got a big statement, and I'm just going to suggest that with this colour now. It's not going to be the final colour, it's just going to suggest it. Take some away and off like so. Underneath the vessel. Through here. We've got a reflection of this one, and that will marry up with the reflection. I'm just going to suggest the reflection of the vessel with just this blue. It's not going to stay that way, don't worry about that. This is just to give me some idea of where I want to take it, and then I can come in with some more of these colours in here just to give me that broken edge of the water. You can see and hear my hand scraping again as I control how the level of the brush hits the paper and where it hits the paper. A bit more of that green into the blue coming down. I'm going to have some bigger statements through here. We're going to change up a gear with the brush very, very shortly. But this is just to give me a sort of medium area. Because although this is quite a nice sized brush, it's not as big as the brush that I'm going to be using, which is going to be the next round, or the big round. This is a size 14, and a bit more of the green, and then just come down here with some of these more liberal statements on these bigger waves that are in the foreground, and they give scale to the whole thing by doing that. Like so. You can still get a very fine point with these, so don't worry too much if you feel you've got to keep swapping between the two. You don't. This one will do just a nice job too. So I'm going to come in with these and leave some nice little eddies and marks, open marks where we've got some light still pushing through, and some then darker ones as well. Add a little bit of ultramarine, no sorry, a little bit of ultramarine. It's got a little bit of indigo to it because I was painting earlier today and there's a little bit of contamination there. Not too much. I'm just going to put that in, take that off there. I think it pretty much sets it up. 1 or 2 little marks, little taps here and there just to finish that area off. And we haven't gone too far. We've got just enough, I think. We've got to let that dry though. We've got to really let this dry up now and finish off. Okay, mate. Yeah, I think it's a bit crazy over there. I keep watching the reports and keep listening to all the news bulletins, mate. I hope everything's okay with you. Not a great place to be living right now, with one thing and another, I'm sure. I'm just going to come down here with this fin and just get that set up. Come down and put the little fins in here. Take that down. Okay. Now I'm going to lift a little bit out of it on the center. There's a bit of a sort of a, you can see the violet in there, but it just gives way to a little bit of light. Like that. And it just shows up as that sort of aluminium-y type. I don't know what they're made of, but that's how it looks to me. Like a bit of an aluminium structure on the front end. Just put that in there, 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 and there, and there. Now, question for all you guys and girls out there who may or may not have tech knowledge. Just a slight change in procedure. Any of you out there using a Macintosh of any description on the latest 10.5? If you are, have you had any issues with the fact that the using or reading an SD card or a mini SD card, I have to keep reformatting to exFAT, MS-DOS exFAT every time, and unless I give it a name, it keeps losing it and it will not mount the card. And it's only on the one machine which has had the latest 10.5 upgrade, so I can only assume it's a conflict in there. So I'm aiming this one a little bit of Ben. If you had any ideas why that might be, I'd love to know. Alright, okay, we're going to let all this dry up now. We are going to come in for the finish, as it were. I don't know how, we're just over an hour, which is not so bad. I'm going to mix up a nice lump of lovely indigo, my favourite dark blue, and give that a real load of paint coming out there. And the paint's fairly fresh. It's not totally, it's been going off a few days, but it is still quite soft and quite sort of able to get into that. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to put a little bit of some of this orange. This orange is not the transparent orange. It's not transparent orange at all. It's actually a magenta. What a fool. I went to the wrong pot. That's the one I meant to have gone into. That's like a, it's a quinacridone sienna. Really nice. Very, very close to translucent orange, but it's a nice colour. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in one of my posts right off there. Let that sort itself out and dry up. And then I'm going to come in with this one here. Just come down with this strong dark shape all the way down through here, all the way down here, and to the side of the boat. That's that one done. You can see it's going to dry up lighter. So if you really want it to stay dark and really full on, then you've got to get a real amount of paint going right at the start, because if you don't, it'll dry up lighter. They're going to have to go over it all again. So I'm going to come in with another dark pole here, like so. This one comes down and into the water about there, and we have a thinner, more knobbly one, sort of like more natural form. This one got a bit of a bend to it. Looks like it was more of just the straight tree and a younger tree. Put that into about there, and of course we've got this one a little further away, and this one further away too. And then we can come into these ones here, which are really going to set that light. Now you can see how they are reacting against that morning light, and now this is what really punches the light out in the sky, is the darks that I'm putting in now. Without these darks, the sky would not be as beautiful as it is. Trust me, it's the light and dark, the contrast, that's punching out the look of the sky. Just going to thicken that up just a little bit. There. I think I've got one more post, haven't I? Yeah, just one. See the top of it comes up to about there. Okay, that's fine. So now we've got the posts in. Let me go and put in the dark, lovely blue of the vessel itself. Now, very lovely blue. I'm going to put some ultramarine together. I'm going to come in with some phthalo blue too. Just going to see how that looks. I think it needs, but it's going to need some of that lovely magenta colour into it too. Just see where we go with this first and foremost. Taking it all the way up through there. Down through there, and it's sort of got a bump in it there. And coming down through to the side. And leave a little bit of light down the side edge of the vessel, because there's a little bit of a highlight as this comes up and around. So I want to leave that in place, but it's not a bright white, so it's got that lovely warmth colour in. And I don't know how far up this goes, but I'm going to bring it to there, take that down that shape there, and make it come out like so. And I'm just going to put in a little bit of light by putting a little bit of green in there, just lifting some of the paint off, just catching a bit of light as that comes down that side, and then you've got that little bit of seating that then goes dark again. Okay, I carry on. They're 128 gigs, and I've had absolutely no problems with any of them at all until I upgraded Ben. I come in with a bit of cerulean blue. It's not quite the right blue, I've got to say, but it's an amazing blue, a very intense blue that's part of this. I come in with some pure ultramarine and see how that takes. Not bad. Maybe it is just a neat ultramarine colour that we need to pop in. I'm going to put some back in there while that's still damp. Take that all the way down through there. And then in this area here, going to resume with the blue. And we've got a little bit of light down there. We've also got to make sure that we leave that nice little edge running around the cockpit there. Quite a bit of light on this side. Taking out some of that again, there's just that nice little light catching there. Maybe a little bit on there, there's a bit of a ridge there. I'll try and suggest that. A bit more of the blue. And take that into there, and it will straighten up through there. Okay. Alright, and I'm going to use some of that dark in here now, into the centre of the cockpit, and let it do what it wants to do in that area. Got to wait for that to dry, but in the meantime I can mix some of my darks up again. Some more of this, some more of the magenta in there as well, keep it the same, and then back into some of that orange. More of the dark blue, that's lovely. And now I'm going to come in with our post. I want to keep careful on this. Very easy to suddenly lose where you're meant to be with it and make a bit of an error when it comes to the shape and the angle that something's going. So just watch it. I say that with due caution because actually I've missed a just realised I missed the post. Now I'm going to put another one in, which is not in the right place, but it's a right angle. So I'm going to put that in there, and then that one in there. Yeah, I was doing a nice painting earlier today actually, and I got a little bit clumsy, a little bit careless, and I had done everything so far with it as I wanted it to be, and then I was careless right towards the end doing a gate and completely wrecked the whole thing, destroyed the painting. It happens, you know, it does happen. Nice strong colour, so I don't have to keep repainting this. Nice strong darks. So yeah, just be warned when you're doing something like this, just be careful you don't just get too cavalier with it and just wreck it by not taking enough care. Hopefully that's fine. More dark, and I'm going to look at the lines here now. I'm going to come in very carefully and draw one side of one, like so. And this underneath. And then I'm going to come in with this one. I'm going to change its angle ever so slightly. Come in there. Try and straighten up this post a little bit. This is what I'm saying, you've got to be really careful, because you can just keep going and suddenly realise you've gone too far. Okay, I'm going to take that up, that post. That is a little bit wishy. So I'm just going to give that an extra layer coming down. That's it. That's fine. Okay, where are we? Not so bad. Yeah, now I've got that. We're on exFAT. It's the 128, so yeah, otherwise it can't take the file size. So I'm aware of that, but I just don't know why the new operating system is not mounting it when it should do. Maybe it's a question to ask the Apple techs during the week. Right, let's take that down, and there it enters the water. And of course we've got to bring these two posts through where they line up, isolating a couple of these little fins in the process, like so, and this one here will come through there, again isolating the fin on the front of the boat. Nice sharp crisp edge to the edge of the boat. Alright, and it's not perfect, but I don't think we're too far out. Just making suggestion that there is an edge to that top timber that's slightly proud of the post, and therefore it does look as though they're sitting on it. And there and there. Alright, I'm happy enough with that, and we've got pretty much our structure in place now. The booms, which I can put those in now, they've got slightly bluer, slightly cooler, and a couple on the side have got a little bit of light on the top. So put those in very simply, just to put those in, we know what they are. Okay, so the last things we've got to do here are really the boat here and all those lovely reflections. So let's come back to the underneath of the, well, let's get into the boat. That's pretty much dry. So let's come up with the shape there. And I need to make a lot of paint, a lot of sort of what I call dry paint, not too much in terms of water. It's going to be quite a dry brush effect. So I want a very heavy dark mark, and I don't want to have to come back and redo it if I don't have to. So I can take that all the way down there. Take that all the way down there. And into there. Okay. I'm just going to change that shape just a little bit there. I'm just going to take that down to encompass a little edge that I put on, and hopefully we can get rid of that. because the boat really does need to be lovely clean lines. I know you can do a very loose version, sure, but that's not what this is. Okay, so let's take that on down through here. Need that lovely little light source right on the edge of the vessel. You might need a little bit more water, but be careful because you've got outlines each side. Too much water on the center will make a line each side and a very light center. You really don't want that, so you've got to try as much as you can to keep going in the same vein as you've gone so far. And it really does pay to make enough up in advance, which I haven't done. So I'm just going to quickly bash in some more, and let's come back into that. Hopefully the difference in colour will not be too noticeable. I was getting a bit too thin with colour and I didn't want that. Now I'm going to come up the back end here and keep that shape on the edge. Come down the edge of this pole, down through there to the water. Leave a little bit of line of light down at the water's edge. There's some reflected light going in. I'll bring that down through to there like so. And now I'm going to lift some of these out. So lift some of that out so that we get some reflected or refracted light off the water into the edge, because these boats are really beautifully polished, lovely vessels. Keep lifting and that will dry up that way. Okay. There's very little, if anything, up this end, so I'm not too worried about that. What I'm going to do now is use the darks here to suggest little bits of lines and lights coming away in the form of reflections in the same sort of value to those that I've already put in. And some of the blues will remain and some of the whites will take over. And I'm going to put in a bit more ultramarine blue. I'm going to put a little bit more water in too, so you're not quite sure now where the boat ends and the riffles and the water start, especially around the post here too. That is going to come in dark and you're going to get the reflection of this post start to come down. And so yeah, so we're pretty much on there. I come this end and start the process from back here, leaving the odd bit of light but a solid bit of dark under here. See very, very little other than the boat. And that line comes this way. It actually comes off the end of the page, but we may or may not make that happen. Very, very heavy colour. Lots of it. A bit more warmth, a bit more cobalt in there as well. Okay. I'm doing a lot of concentrating, so I'm not doing a lot of talking. I'm going to bring that post in, trying to create some nice shapes with the water and the eddies. And then this great big post here that comes, actually the shape needs a bit more. Bring that down to there. And Where are we? Ben. 21 watching, but not 21 talking. Not a problem. Just nice to have a viewership of 21. Okay, I'm just going to put in a few more ripples around here and make these a little rounder, a little less. I'm making them a little bit softer. I think would be quite nice. Not hard edge, not jagged edges. Nice. There's the post there that's got reflections as well, so I'm going to put that in there and make that suggested, and that will then carry on more spindly, maybe down through here. So I'm starting to draw with some of these shapes now. Bring some more into this. And big statement through there. Still a very, very wide post, so it's casting a great big reflection, which is actually starting to join up with the front of the boat at this point. And take that way off as it does in the photo as well. I think that does need coming off the page. Just making a bit more of this area here. Nice angle. And lots of little subtle edges like so. A few breaking away this way. And lots of different marks coming out this way, joining up that one there. So we start to get little spider web type things happening with lines that radiate out, and this will then join up with one or two through here. So I'm going to put in more of this, and don't forget reflections come toward the viewer. Bit of a dark solid there, and it start to come out a little bit this way. And connect that shape there. Want to connect one or two more this way as well. And this starts to lose out a bit more blue into that as it comes down through here. Okay, look to the other ones, and we got a bluer, not as strong reflection from over here, so I'm going to put that in. Just a few taps, a few spaces like so, and it dissipates, it goes. You can even drag it out if you don't want it so much. This one's going to have a firm base, and again we have a nice dark marks in this one. And some of the edges are changing what we see. Coming around the boat is where it's moving, is sort of pushing the water, displacing the water in a different angle, different way. And we don't see too much up in here of what's going on. But there is, nonetheless, I see it, there is a very, very faint shadow from that one there. So I'm going to put that in. And very similarly, this one over here has got to have some shadows and reflections. And I'm going to come in with some blues, some more ultramarine. and bring some of those bluer as they come this way. This one's got to have quite a bit done as well. It's got a nice sort of shape to start with there, just a nice little bit going on. Let them two join up a little bit, but then this one will come down independently. This one will carry on down and dissipate into other areas of the water. Okay, now I'm going to put in one or two dark areas in here. Suggest there's a little bit more weight to some of these ripples before I finish off. I'm going to bring one or two bits in here. Just darkening up one or two of them. Then I want to wait for them to dry for the very last part of this. Nice, strong, vivid blues in this foreground, just adding weight to the whole picture. I ought to bring some off here too, so I'm going to do that. Hopefully it's dry enough to allow me to do that. There's one or two through here as well. Okay, I'm pretty happy with what we've got there. I don't want to go too mad with the darks, not at this stage. He says as he keeps going. Okay, I'm going to stop at that. And I've got the rigger to do a few pale colours of these sort of markers. They're like pillared markers that are sort of suggesting the lanes for the larger vessels to come down the channels and to come through and up the Grand Canal, as it were, or to the side of it anyway. So they exist. I'm not going to put the morning ferry boat in, or whatever that is. That will stay as it is. Oh, I tell you what, I have forgotten. I've forgotten this one, haven't I? You put that in. Doesn't come down that far, just far enough there. Okay. Something a little bit hanging off of there. I don't know quite what that is, but put that on. Alright, I'm going to let that all dry, as I was saying, but what I want to do now is I'm going to come in with a bit of gouache, a little bit of yellow mixed to it. So let's take, there's a little bit of gum arabic on the top, take that out, and a little bit of yellow into that. And I just want to come in with a purposeful light in our light there, a little bit of light, maybe a little more white. Okay, then I'm going to come around it with some orange, a little bit of yellow. So I want to give that a little bit of strength in there. bit of a glow, and come back with some of the darker values that create the shape of the lighthouse itself. That's a bit dark, so let's come back in and lift some of that out. And then on up above the lighthouse, with the top of the lighthouse, and it's a really lovely looking lighthouse, gotta say. Not like a lighthouse, the ones that we're used to seeing, but nonetheless it's a beautiful lighthouse. Okay, hopefully that captures that in the distance. And I need a glug. My throat's drying up very fast. Ah, it's needed. Alright, now I'm going to use a bit more dark, just to come in the well of the hair, just to re-emphasize that. It's got a little bit red, don't want that. I put a little bit of dark in there just to give that sense of where that edge is on here, more importantly. Okay, and then we're going to come up and finish the back of the vessel through there. Okay, and we may as well just put those couple of ropes out around there. They're holding it tight, and that essentially is it, but it's not quite it. What I've got to do now is I'm going to dry this off very, very thoroughly, and then you'll see why. Okay, so the last part of this, and put the lid back on that before I forget to, is a simple wash. I needed everything to be dry to be able to put a wash over the top without fear of destroying any of the surface, which I wouldn't want to do. So I'm going to clean out the palette to make sure that I get a good wash. So take this all out one area. Probably put it up there actually. Seems to be gravitating to warm values in the bottom and cooler ones up the top, so let's keep it that way anyway. I'm going to use the big brush. Got the dirty side of water and I've got my clean side, so I've got a nice fresh side to use, and I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue, and I want to make that as pure as I can with some cobalt into that too. Quite a lovely blue. Now I want to see where I want to take that. I'm going to add something to it, and I'm just trying to work out in my head what I want to do. I'm going to put a little bit of magenta to that, just ever so slightly. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Nice amount of water, and let's just come over the whole of this area with a lovely wash into some of this here, just to warm up some of these colours, or cool them down, sorry, just deepen them and give them a wonderful sense of weight at the bottom of the picture, like so. Don't overwork it too much. Okay, just let it settle down and leave it at that. Just adds weight right at the very front of the picture. And we're a done deal. I'm going to let this dry off, and I'm going to dry it before it goes too far. I just saw your comment, Tracy. I actually do use an external card reader to connect, because I've got lightning ports and no USB 3 and what have you. It's sort of a bit more of a problem in that regard, but yeah, I have no idea why we've got this issue. I'll have to get a hold of them and find out. Right, I'm going to put a signature here. Out the way. And let's take the tape off and see how it looks like that. Now, before we finish, glad to have you all tonight. Glad to have you watching. Sorry about the start. It wasn't planned, as you are probably very well aware. And I'm glad you all managed to catch up and find me. And don't forget, the patrons, now there are some of you who are on the higher tier. Don't forget to book in your Zoom meetings this month, because of course we are halfway through the month. Christmas is looming. Time will thus get shorter. So don't forget to make contact and book it in, and so that we can have a chat to each other. I'm going to take that down, take my picture down a little bit so it doesn't interfere. There you are. All right. So one Venetian morning completed. Looking at it now, it's not as bad as I first thought it might be, but it could have been, I don't know, anything could be better. I suppose it's okay. Quite not unhappy with it. I like the weight in the foreground. I like the deep darks of the boat, and therefore throwing all that light back out beyond. And of course you've got the essence of the coolness of the San Giorgio in the background. I think it's worked quite well. Quite well. It could have been a little bit more peachy through here, but hey, I'm not going to argue over that if that's the only real big problem with it. So yeah, we nearly had a big problem here. I think we got away with it on the whole. So I'm going to let it ride and let it be. I can always come in a little bit if I feel the need, but it's not so bad. Yeah, no, thanks, Sue. I'm glad it worked out. I wasn't sure what the hell was going to happen at one point. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. And as long as you guys enjoyed it and got something from it, then that's what this is all about. And yeah, so there you go. I've got a very sore throat coming on. That's why I'm stopping and talking, and I'm gonna have another drink. Good. I'm glad. Okay. Well, I don't forget, patrons. Your Friday stream is gonna be. I think I might do. Very tempted to do a pastel. I know I did one recently. But if you don't mind me doing another one, I fancy doing one on a board. I don't know what it's going to turn out like yet. It's going to be a landscape. I just saw somebody. I really like what they were doing. I just want to, I don't know, I just might have a play with that idea. So it might be a pastel on Friday. It may not, but it might. Fantastic. That's lovely, Colin. I like the idea of that. Great stuff. Well, don't forget, as I said, patrons that are on the high tier, don't forget to book your Zoom meets with me this month. Would hate for you to lose them, let them go by. And let's discuss what your needs may or may not be. And all my other patrons, I will see you Friday at 7 o'clock, I hope. Join the Patreon feed and your live stream. I'm sure you will, Tracy, and I can't say that enough that it's a beautiful place. So great place for a honeymoon. Cheers, Jim. You stay safe, my friend, and all the troubles out there, I do hope they dissipate fast. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gondola, shape of the gondola is just fantastic. It's just a nice lead-in line all the way through to the San Giorgio Maggiore. Take care, Colin. Thank you, Ben. Cheers, mate. Good to see you here. Glad you made it. I'll give it a couple more minutes for people to say their goodbyes, and then I'll shut the stream down. And thanks for sticking with me tonight, people. That is very good. Good night, Steve. Take care, my friend. Right, you got to tell him, Tracy. Put your foot down. And if it's not going to be a honeymoon, it's going to be a holiday. One of the two, but you're going to go. Cheers, Trevor. Thank you very much. Wendy, thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it. Judy, what's the exclamation mark for? Derek, good evening to you, mate. Welcome. See you on Friday. Stay safe, everybody. Judy, take care. Keith, take care. So I'll see you on Friday, guys. And there'll be a Friday film as well. So, yeah. Thank you very much for your support. All the best. Take care, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. You heard it here, folks. Right. Good night.